Hey guys, welcome back to the Reluctant Chaplain Bible Study. This is episode 73. We are still in Paul's epistle to the Christian churches in Rome around the time of the height of the Roman Empire. And we are in chapter 11. We're picking up in verse 11, and we're going through 24. We will not be finishing chapter 11 today. We're breaking it into three parts. If this is your first time here, you're certainly welcome to start from here. I would recommend going back on the YouTube page. You can see playlist, and I've got all the videos for all the individual studies grouped into playlist. I would go back and start at one because Romans is absolutely worth doing it. Plus, in episode one, you get more of the groundwork of what was going on in history, who Paul was writing to, while he was writing to him, and all that other stuff. In any case, we got a lot to get to tonight to get through this. I apologize for the study being late. I was away this weekend, and I didn't get home till late this afternoon. Then we had some stuff at the church tonight, so it's 10:14 East Coast time right now, and I'm just getting to this. So I doubt any of you will see this evening. But in any case, thank you guys for those of you who do tune in to this little Bible study. I appreciate it, and I hope you get something out of it. All right, here we are, Romans chapter 11, starting in verse 11. We're going through 24. I'm reading first from the ESV Study Bible, Reformation Study Bible Edition, which is my favorite when I take to church, and then I'll read from the NET Full Notes Edition. Okay, here we go. From the Apostle Paul to the churches in Rome. So I ask, did they stumble in order that they might fall? By no means. Rather, through their trespass, salvation has come to the Gentiles, so as to make Israel jealous. Now, if their trespass means riches for the world, and if their failure means riches for the Gentiles, how much more will their full inclusion mean? Now I am speaking to you, Gentiles, insomuch then I am an apostle to the Gentiles. I magnify my ministry in order somehow to make my fellow Jews jealous and thus save some of them. For if their rejection means the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance mean but life from the dead? And if the dough offered as first fruits is holy, so is the whole lump. And if the root is holy, so are the branches. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, although a wild olive shoot, were grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing root of the olive tree, do not be arrogant toward the branches. If you are, remember it is not you who support the root, but the root that supports you. Then you will say, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. That is true. They were broken off because of their unbelief. But you stand fast through faith. So do not become proud, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. Note then the kindness and the severity of God. Severity toward those who have fallen, but God's kindness to you, provided you continue in his kindness. Otherwise, you too will be cut off. And even if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in, for God has the power to graft them in again. For if you were cut from what is by nature a wild olive tree and grafted, contrary to nature, into a cultivated olive tree, how much more will these, the natural branches, be grafted back into their own olive tree? All right. I apologize for the slightly awkward reading there. Sometimes it's tough reading out loud with the ESV if you're not read. Not, I've read through it a bunch of times, but didn't really kind of rehearse the reading, so cadence can be a little funky. All right, the NET Full Notes Edition. Here we go. I ask then, they did not stumble into an irrevocable fall, did they? Absolutely not. But by their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make Israel jealous. Now, if their transgression means riches for the world, and their defeat means riches for the Gentiles, how much more will their full restoration bring? Now I'm speaking to you, Gentiles, seeing that I am an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry. Yet somehow I could provoke my people to jealousy and save some of them. For if their rejection is the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? If the first portion of the dough offered is holy, then the whole batch is holy, and if the root is holy, so too are the branches. Now, if some of the branches were broken off, and you, a wild shoot, were grafted in among them and participating in the richness of the olive root, do not boast over the branches. But if you boast, remember that you do not support the root, but the root supports you. then you will say the branches were broken off so that I could be grafted in. Granted, they were broken off because of their unbelief, but you stand by faith. Do not be arrogant, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, he will not spare you. Notice therefore the kindness and harshness of God, harshness toward those who have fallen, but God's kindness towards you, provided you continue in his kindness. Otherwise, you will also be cut off. And even if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut off from what is by nature a wild olive tree and grafted, contrary to nature, into a cultivated olive tree, how much more will these natural branches be grafted back into their own olive tree? All right, that was the reading. And let's go to my somewhat sloppy notes here. Somewhat nothing. They're incredibly sloppy. Who am I kidding? All right. So in 11:1, Paul raises a new question. Have they, the nation of Israel, stumbled so that they should fall? And that would be a fall once and for all, forever, fall done like disaster, fall that they would never be restored from forever and ever. And St. Paul emphatically denies that this is God's purpose. Um, for there is God's purpose for them is restorative. And as a result of their fall, that salvation would come to the Gentiles. That this would provoke Israel to jealousy and bring them back, restore them, is part of his plan. Paul doesn't deny the fall here, he freely admits it, but he argues against it being a permanent judgment on Israel. In 11:12, as a result of Israel's rejection of the gospel, the goodness of salvation was given to the Gentiles. So their fall brought riches to the whole world, to the whole Gentile world. And Paul's now saying that if their fall brought such a great blessing on the world, how much greater is it going to be when they're restored? 11:13, our author is now addressing the Gentiles. Some think he's speaking to the Gentiles in Rome, but the passage demands a different audience, and that is the Gentiles as a nation. It's easier to read this and and understand it as Paul speaking to both Israel and the Gentiles as both nations and as nationally. He's not speaking of the church of God. Otherwise, as we'll see coming up in 11:22, that the church would face the possibility of being cut off, and that is in no way scriptural. Since Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles, he was very candid with them in fulfilling that ministry. So 11:14, he, Paul, takes every opportunity to stir jealousy in his fellow countrymen in the hopes that they will um, come to faith, that they will be driven towards salvation. At 11:15, Paul repeats his message from 11:12, but he just uses different language in it. That's all. If you read it, you'll see it's just, go back and reread those two side by side, and you'll see he's saying the same thing. He's just changing the language a little bit. In 11:16, Paul employs two metaphors here, and one you can trace back to Numbers in the Old Testament, 15 verses 19 to 21, and there's a verse in there about the piece of dough being set aside for the Lord for an offering, a special kind of offering, and the idea is that if a piece is set aside for the Lord, that's holy, so that the whole lump, the whole dough is also holy that's made from it. Okay, the root represents the covenant promises made to the patriarchs who are ultimately grounded in Christ. Talking about the Abrahamic and the Mosaic covenant, and again, go back to the Old Testament for that. And the branches are those that grow from the covenant. So 11:17, some are broken off, and those are representing the unbelieving Jews, and some are grafted in by faith, and those are the believing Gentiles. 11:18, this is a warning to the Gentiles that they should not be a proud and boastful bunch. They shouldn't boast of their superiority, especially over the Jews. This would overlook the fact that they did not originate this line of privilege, right? The root, with the that all came through Israel as God's chosen people. It's that very line that put them where they are. So 11:19, Paul hypothesizes here that the Gentile might say that the Jews were broken off, the branches being broken off, so that they could be grafted in their stead. And 11:20, Paul admits that this is partially true. I like how the NET puts it. Granted, um, but it was because of the unbelief of Israel and not their own special claim to God that they got grafted in. Um, I lost my place here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, they were grafted in because of their great faith, nothing else. And Paul warns them not to be boastful or proud. 11:21, Paul's doing another warning here. Pardon me, doing some stuff here. Paul's warning them again, and what he's saying here is that if God did not hesitate to cut off the natural branches, what makes him think he would hesitate to cut them out, right? The wild roots that were grafted in. In 11:22, Paul speaks of God's goodness as well as his severity. His severity shows how he removes Israel, temporarily at least, from their favorite nation status. And his goodness is seen in the revealing of the gospel to the Gentile nations and all the people that were brought um, into the believer family because of that. And but they can be cut off if they make the same mistakes as Ismail as Israel. Pardon me, I'm a little scattered tonight. It is late. Now, this is really important to keep this in mind. Paul is not speaking of the church or individual believers here, because nothing can separate a believer from the love of God. That's impossible, and that is scriptural. But the Gentile people can be removed from their present position of special privilege if they were to, continue on a bad path. 11:23, and Israel's severance need not be final either. If they abandon their national unbelief, God can restore them to their original place in just a word. 11:24, Paul is saying that it's a less violent process to restore Israel than it was to graft the Gentiles in their place. The grafting in of the natural branches is much easier rather than putting in the wild ones. The wild olive branches are being used as the metaphor here, being done. And that closes out, well, doesn't close out. That closes out tonight's video. And we will finish off chapter 11 next week. Hopefully it will be on time. I don't think I'm traveling next week, so we should be good. My apologies for a little bit of fumbling tonight. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. Remember, if you have not subscribed to this channel and you actually like this stuff, please subscribe. If you click on the little bell, you'll get notifications of the videos when they come out. And also, if you don't mind liking the videos once in a while, I got 44 views and 3 likes on the last video. So y'all either really don't like the video or you're giving me mercy watches or whatever. But the likes are good for my self-esteem, and they also help more people to see the videos. There is no money exchanging hands here. There's no monetary benefit to this at all. As you can see, I don't put any money into it either. This is your production value. So anyway, if you have questions about anything here, please reach out to me. If I don't know the answer, I promise you I'll find someone smarter than me who will get that answer to you. If there's no real answer, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to play games with you. I'll just tell you. I'll be very honest with you. If you're thinking about going to church and you want some help with that, talk to me. Please, I would love to help you find a good church family. The church is so important. I know a lot of you guys out there have told me before that, oh, you love Jesus, but you don't love the church. You don't know Jesus if you think that that's okay to do that. Please go back and watch my video about why the local church is so important to Christians. It's not my opinion. I'll prove it to you scripturally, okay? Love you guys. Praying for you. Hope you pray for me as well. And I'll see you for episode 74 next week. God bless.